Farewell, Madrid. Hello, Zaragoza. The year 1973 will be the last year we will spend in Madrid, and in which we will leave the house in which we had lived for years. In my case, 10. There I celebrated my 10th birthday and my brother his 8th. Just 2 days after this, we will leave that house that saw so many things forever. That year, we also said goodbye to a famous singer whom I still admire and adore after 52 years of his death, and whom my brother loved very much, Nino Bravo. His life was cut short at the age of 27 in a car accident when his career was in full swing. And so, on December 8th, 1973, after my parents explained to us that Dad was going to get an excellent job for life in the municipal band of Zaragoza and that we were going to be close to our grandparents and family there, we went out almost secretly, very early in the morning. I think it must have been about 6 o'clock, still dark outside and cold, very cold. We will no longer spend Christmas in that house with our dear neighbors, whom we will miss very much. There were tears in the farewells. I will never see my dear friend Merte again, and so it really was. We took a taxi that took us to the recently opened Chamartín station to take a Talgo train to Zaragoza that will not leave until noon. A long wait, wondering about the trip, what was going to happen from now on, and which school we will go to. Our uncle Ricardo, my father's brother, came out to meet us at the El Portillo station in Zaragoza, which has now disappeared. I remember it was a pleasant moment. We were very tired from waiting so much on the trip. After the obligatory kisses and hugs, we went to my grandparents' house, which will be our home from that moment on. I remember that it was there that we spent our first Christmas in Zaragoza. I don't remember many details about them, but I guess we didn't have a bad time. My grandparents' house was a nice flat with 3 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, and a bathroom. It also had a balcony overlooking the street that I liked to look out of from time to time. I had to find a school before the Christmas holidays ended, and the closest one for me was Las Carmelitas de Vedruna, just 2 streets from my grandparents' house. It was, and is, one of the best schools in Zaragoza. And although at that time it was private, my parents did not hesitate to pay to give me a good education. Needless to say, it was and it's a religious school of nuns, of which I keep a wonderful memory of. There I found good, very good friends, great teachers, lay and religious, and they made my transition much more bearable. My brother was not so lucky when it came to the proximity to the school. He also had to go to a religious school with tradition because it was the same school my father went to, at least one of them, the Piarist, only for boys, because at that time boys and girls studied separately in private schools. My brother had a long distance to school, crossing Zaragoza when he was only 9 years old. At first, my grandfather was taking him, but my father, who suffered the terrible disappointment of not getting the job he was anxiously waiting for, flew into a rage one day and said that from then on he will go to school by himself. Thank God, and my grandfather, who was an angel, followed him in the distance every day so that nothing will happen to him. And thus, suddenly, he had to start growing. The neighborhood where my grandparents live was a good neighborhood, one of the best in Zaragoza, although not for rich people, but for hardworking and decent people. There were some fields nearby, crossing an avenue, and there was still an old irrigation ditch that I like to contemplate very much. Sometimes we went with my grandfather to play on those fields, which later became a gigantic complex of luxury flats and a park. There, we could still pick blackberries, do research, and my grandfather will always grab a bunch of wildflowers to take back to my grandmother. The age difference between them was great, 16 years at least. My grandfather was older. My grandmother suffered a lot from the nerves and had a somewhat unstable character, but my grandfather was always there for her, trying to calm her down or accompany her. I remember her as a great cook. She taught us some recipes that even today, after so many years, I still put them into practice. In that house of my grandparents, we will spend 9 months. Certain tensions were created between the family, especially when my father lost the long-awaited place in the municipal band of Zaragoza, to which he had to sit a public entrance examination, and that, let's be honest, was robbed from him, as has always happened in most cases in this beloved Spain of ours. A frustration was created in him that began to run wild and began to affect us all. So as I mentioned earlier, I started going to school. The first weeks were hard. I cried a lot. I reminisced about what I had left in Madrid. But soon I began to make new friends among the students, and to my delight, 2 of them lived in the same building where my grandparents lived. One lived on the first floor, and her name was Maria Enriqueta, although we all call her Marienne. And the second lived on the 5th and last floor, 2 above where we lived, and her name was Eunice Maria Angeles. I remember their last names, but I will not name them here out of respect for their privacy. Marienne was a very forward-looking girl, a little cheeky but funny. I guess his character was a mixture of all that, because her situation at home was not easy. Not because she was treated badly, but perhaps because her father suffered from a degenerative disease that had him practically bedridden, unable to communicate through words, and he needed care 24/7. I think Marienne, at 11 years old, had learned to defend herself and to try not to inspire pity in those who knew her. We had a good time playing in the street some afternoons, or at his house, her house. They never came to mind. The second, Maria Angeles, lived with her grandmother, a very affectionate and pleasant woman. Maria Angeles had a much sweeter and more bearable character than Marienne, and we both shared many tastes in terms of stories, tales, and ways of thinking. I used to go up to her house at noon after lunch, and then the 2 of us went to school together at 3. I remember how we went down the stairs of the building almost 3 by 3. Blessed youth. We also walked up, as access to the elevator was forbidden if you were under 14 years old. But thank God our legs at that time were strong and agile, and although sometimes when we came home tired from school, we didn't feel like it much, we had assumed it. On weekends, if we behaved well during the week, they gave us an allowance that we usually tried to administer so that it would last us the whole week, and thus be able to buy sweets before entering school, a pastry or chocolate, or the stickers that we collected in the albums. In my case, my favorite was Disney's Sleeping Beauty. I was fascinated by the story and the movie. Although there is no beach in Zaragoza, my uncle Ricardo, with my grandfather and my parents, took us to the banks of the Ebro River to get our feet wet, because it is a dangerous river for little elves. We were fascinated to see the madrillas, a typical fish of the river, jump in the water or pass near us, as well as some little snakes. My uncle fished from time to time, and hunted little birds that my grandmother then prepared very fried. Sometimes we will go with him to a cornfield and steal corn on the cob to roast at home, and you may wonder why we stole them and didn't buy them. Well, for the simple reason that they didn't sell them in the stores at the time. Also, in summer, my grandfather would take us for a walk to the city's parks to play, and in addition, in those, at least in two, there were free swimming pools where lots of kids bathed, trying to placate the oppressive heat of Zaragoza on summer days. I'm not sure how we didn't catch some disease in those pools, because the cleaning system was not the most recommended. And there we were, 105, but that's how our generation was grown. No worries of that kind, and we had a wonderful time. The rest of the summer we continued to spend in our beloved Alicante. We continued to enjoy the beautiful beaches, my grandparents and uncles, and boat trips in the port at sunset. When the new school year began in September 1974, we finally moved to a flat 2 streets away from my grandparents' house. A huge building with 6 floors, if I'm not mistaken, with huge corridors containing 12 doors per corridor. It was so big, and it still exists, that it had 2 of those old elevators between bars, and a freight elevator that was also used as an elevator if the others were damaged. We lived on the 5th floor. There we went again to climb the stairs. 9th door. It was a fairly large house with a long hallway, 4 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a bathroom. Some rooms faced the street, and the rest faced a not very large courtyard.